and hopefully it is now recording and we are live. And hello there, and welcome to the XStreamed chat show from Extreme Improv Extreme. My name is David Pustansky, and make sure you smash the subscribe and all the other jazz, whether you are listening to this podcast or watching this podcast. But today's podcast is super duper exciting, as they all are. But today in particular, because we have Rob Kirby on the show. Hello, Rob.
Hello, David, and I like to be the exciting one. That makes me feel happy and full of joy.
Well, good.
Bring excitement to the extreme audience.
Well, absolutely. So it's all about the excitement. How are you? How have you been?
I'm all right. Dealing with some car trouble right now, so that's never fun.
Car trouble of what kind?
You know nothing about cars, so it's horrible. Well, I had a leak a few weeks ago, and I took it in, and they fixed the leak, and they replaced my struts. And then yesterday, all of a sudden, I saw another puddle or another mark under the car, and so I don't know if it's that again or not. But I drove it around, came back, and there's no mark now. So I really have no idea what to do because I don't know anything about cars. It's like my biggest regret in life.
Is it an automatic?
Yeah. So yeah. I know.
Like all cars in America seem to be automatics. I'm sure that's wrong. But
yeah, very few of us can drive sticks. If you watch The Amazing Race, there's always somebody like, "Oh, I just learned how to drive stick before I got on the show, and I can't do it still."
Wow,
that would be me.
Like the thing that bothers me is when I've been to America, driving an automatic car is like luxury, and then I come back to the UK and I'm like, I've got a gear stick, I've got 3 pedals. This whole thing is awful.
And you're on the wrong side of the road, so it must just be.
Well, actually, we're on the side of the road we're on makes sense. Do you even have like roundabouts out there?
Yeah, there are a few roundabouts.
Do you call them roundabouts?
Yeah, we do.
Really? Oh.
There's one right by me. There's a big one right by me, and then like in a city that's like 15-20 minutes from me, there's like a ton of small ones that drive me absolutely nuts. Like if I didn't have GPS on the phone, I would have no idea what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so do you have magic roundabouts out there?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, well, imagine this, and this is like an interesting way of starting off this show. But it's a roundabout, like a big roundabout, surrounded by small roundabouts. So that you go on a small roundabout and then weave your way through to the big roundabout, and then you have to exit on a small roundabout somewhere.
I would most likely pull over and just start crying.
Yeah, literally, that's what I do every time. So, this I like it. We've already covered some car travel. I didn't think this would be like an auto show, but like a, you know.
I did work on Top Gear for 3 years.
Wait, what?
Top Gear USA, the one with Tanner Rutledge, Adam Ferrara, and Tanner Frost, something else. I don't remember Rutledge's first name, but.
Wow. So okay, in what way did you work on Top Gear?
It was just a PA. I worked the track. I kept people off the track. It was the easiest job I've ever had in my life.
That's so cool, though. Like for so many people, because especially, so I assume Top Gear USA is a spin-off of Top Gear. That's the UK show.
It's the exact same show, just different host. We had a Stig, which it was weird. Like eventually, Top Gear USA got rid of the track part, like because I guess American audiences didn't like it. That's supposedly the most popular part. In England is the track part. Yeah,
quite possibly. So there's like the bit where they talk about cars and it's all the banter, and then we always wait for the challenge each week to see the celebrity go around a track and who will have the best time. But my favourite ones are have you ever seen like the specials where it'll be like where do you start like, or do you know the Grand Tour, like which was when all of our presenters got fired and then
over there.
And so yeah, they'll do like a challenge where they're trying to like travel across South America or travel to Antarctica or something in a car, and yeah, they were the best ones.
That's pretty much what Top Gear USA turned into.
Oh my god, I need to watch Top Gear USA.
There's been like 4 different versions. I was on the one that had Tanner Frost and Adam Ferrara. I wasn't on it, but I was.
Do you ever get seen on screen?
My car did a couple times.
Your car?
Yeah, just because I was like, because we got stationed there, because they filmed at this giant former Marine base, so there are ways to get onto the track from everywhere. So I think we had 9 points where we had to have people out there to keep people from getting onto the track. And so when you see the car go around, you see the person, sometimes like the person's car in the background, who's sitting in there. Like I think I did like 15 or 17 episodes, something like that. I probably did what I was hired to do 3 or 4 times. Like that was
Wow.
how somebody came on the track. Like I hooked up a wiffle ball tournament. I ate great food. I, you know,
Yeah.
have some bad things to say about some celebrities, but I have an NDA.
Oh, no way. Oh, wow. We'll find a way to get to the juicy stuff somewhere. Have you worked on other shows that that I may know of? Because like you've
Yes,
obviously we know each other doing primarily like through the extreme improv shows, and
yes. I
this is a way for like me to I guess like we have spoken at other times, but instantly I've learned that you were on a show that I would know, but I never knew it. So
There is another one that that I have. I don't have. I didn't check the box for what's it called, IMDb credit, because they say don't put too much below the line work on there. So I don't think I'm supposed to say it publicly.
oh, are we stalking your IMDb now?
No, it's not on there because I didn't put it on there. But I've done movies. I've done. I don't know anything like. Have you seen the movie Three Veils? It won some awards. I
I
was
don't think I have.
EA and extra on that. I did a bunch of stuff on that. Where
Okay.
I'm at.
Yeah, I'm literally stalking you now, and we've got here Top Gear USA. That's amazing. Big rigs, America's toughest trucks. That's awesome.
And the stag kept he kept that helmet on anytime he walked anywhere. He was outside his trailer. The helmet was on.
So, do you know who the Stig was when when you?
I said stag, didn't I? The
Yeah,
stag.
that's cool.
I do not know who it was.
Uh,
But,
wow. So
he always had his Gatorade on, or he always had his helmet on, and he always demanded orange Gatorade.
yeah, amazing. Now, Rob, you are a performer, an improviser, an actor, a writer. Like, what would you consider yourself first and foremost?
Writer for sure, or maybe improv. I do way more improv now than I have got anything made writing, but still consider myself a writer who likes to act. I don't think I'm a good actor at all. Like most of the 80% of the things I've gotten were nepotism acting roles, but I do get some, and I've
Yeah,
had
is there
some that
anything really wrong in nepotism acting roles? I wish that I had like family or people that could just give me these roles.
no, but like I don't know the play I was in. I'm only in it because I wrote it. Obviously, the one that you graciously ran on your network, and
Yeah, that was a Another Life,
Another Life
which people can still
seems
check
like
out on
another
the
life.
Extreme
It was.
Improv YouTube channel. Just search Another Life on there. You'll be able to see
Yes.
Rob both performing, but also in words that you wrote.
Yes, I'm really proud of that script, and I got a lot of good feedback when people watched that. Some people sent me some messages. Really nice. Reminded me of the actual because it was Another Life. It happened pre-pandemic when we filmed that, so that was indeed Another Life. It
Yeah, it
seems like
was. It feels like a lifetime ago.
it's crazy.
But so,
Yeah, and improv performer. Like I love doing the extreme shows. I've done shows. I have my own troupe, which we still haven't done, and we haven't come back at all since the pandemic.
what's that troupe called?
The improv nights,
The
and we
Improv
didn't
Night,
do
of course, it
anything. We
is.
didn't do anything online because my main guy in that, who's like my, we've all got like our improv people. Like he's my guy. Like we're really good. He didn't like doing anything online, so we didn't. The nights haven't done anything. I have started fielding. We can do backyard stuff again, but my other troupe, the picnic one, the one that we do the online variety shows, they've done a couple live shows, backyard shows, and stuff. Because that's a built-in audience because they're all Disney members, and the improv nights have similar cast members, so we piggyback off that. And yeah,
And what kind of shows do any of these groups do? Improv nights, I guess, to begin with.
improv nights is a rated R improv. We'll go R. We don't have to. We go R. If you want like a PG thing, I would forward it on to Polly, and we would do a picnic thing for sure. Because they have to be PG for their living most of the time, so that one gets a little more family friendly. Although we can go family friendly too, but I do like to do the hard R. Like the main troupe that I liked watching before I really got into improv and still like watching. They're an R-rated improv. They're hilarious, and you see the Who's Line when Who's Line tours. It's Brian Stiles, Greg Proops, Jeff Davis, and Joel Murray, I believe, one of the Murray brothers. And it's totally R-rated. They're cursing like crazy. It's hilarious.
So okay, so what would you, out of interest, what would you consider what we do on Extreme Improv? What would you rate that if you were the ratings board? I don't mean like star
13.
rating. What would you say?
PG-13 that can go R from time to time. We go. I mean, I know I push it. I push the boundaries a lot with some sex stuff. Jimmy does as well.
Yeah.
And a couple of people have. I also curse a lot. Not too much. I think I rein myself in a little bit cursing wise. But yeah, there's some cursing in too. I love extreme improv. That's a ton of fun.
Yeah, do you know, it's like a weird thing where I know I may have said this on the show before, but like I think Diz once said like, oh, your show is like PG or it's tame or something. I was like, is it? It's like it's never my intention for it to have been. It's kind of like I guess it just sort of settles where it is, but like I feel like I need to push some more boundaries now.
I mean, no, I mean, you really only have one rule. There's like one word you don't want us to say. But then I guess if there was one time where I think we were playing verbatim, and it was kind of a gross phrase with some curse word in it, and
Yeah.
everybody said it, and you kind of like, come on, guys, like
Oh yeah, yeah. It was.
that. Yeah, that was it. But aside from that, yeah, you have, like we can
Yeah,
go way up.
it's weird. It's literally just because if these things are on YouTube or whatever, it's just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they
Yeah,
won't share it.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
no, that's cool.
Like I also do this. I also do a like a line game thing. It's not broadcast or whatever. I don't host it, but like when somebody from because I co-host the Second City Wham Bam Improv Jam, and I'm like total professional on that. I rarely curse at all on that one, and I'm like, all right, guys, take it easy. But when someone from that shows up on line game, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be a little bit less professional than you see me normally. Just be prepared for that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Wham Bam Improv Jam. How long have you been involved with co-hosting that? How did you get
I don't even
involved with that?
I don't even know. Well, I saw the ad for they were doing the jam, and like during the pandemic, I was going nuts. I wanted performers. I did as many things as possible, and I started doing that. It was a good time for me during the day, and I did it for a couple months. And then Tim asked me if I wanted to start co-hosting it. Yeah, sure.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Good times. I mean, you've done it a few times. There's a good eclectic group from people as talented as yourself to people who have never even taken a class. I mean, it's okay. It could be fun. It could be fun.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's it's really cool. It's really fun, especially from being from the UK. Like it was a weird time, like during the pandemic, where people would do loads of different shows online, and I'd do a few where it'd be 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing a show, and there was a couple where it would end up being that I'd go on there and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and 80% of the people on there are from the UK. And it's like, what? I
Wow.
thought I'd be the only one here, and everyone on it is in the UK or something.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But
Yeah,
when we do the online variety shows. A couple of the people live in New York, and we start at like 7 out here, and sometimes the show goes for like 4 hours, and they're still on. I'm like, hey, guys, go to sleep.
yeah. Okay, so what else happens on the online variety shows? Because what's the variety aspect?
It's mainly there's occasionally stand up, but it's nearly impossible online. A couple of people have done it. The ones who do it are pretty good, but it's mainly singing and improv games.
Okay. Have
The
you ever done
singing,
stand up?
I did stand up a very long time ago. Very, very, very long time ago. It was like what I wanted to do for a little bit, and then I gave it up. I've done it maybe 3 times in the past 10 years for special occasions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written jokes for stand-ups though as well. Yeah, I haven't done it on the online variety show. Definitely not.
Well, like you said, I think stand up online is really difficult.
Yeah,
It's because there's just no like improv online works surprisingly well,
yeah. I'm
but
surprised at how well everything is. How well everything works.
yeah, absolutely. But like stand up online, it just feels like the way it's written, they most comics put in places where they think they'll get the laugh and that,
Oh,
and they still sort of
exactly.
run that feeling of there's meant to be a laugh here. I'm going to ride the
Yeah.
laugh, and
So
it just doesn't come.
it just kind of lulls.
Mm,
But if the comedian can tolerate not hearing the laughter, I mean, it can still work. Like I know Dylan White has done some really good ones online, and my friend Todd has as well. But yeah, I stick to the improv and the singers on the variety show they're amazing. Some of them have done Broadway, and that's just blows my mind. And as I hate to sound like a douche and name drop, but Denny Siegel is a part of this troupe. She used to be on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
yeah, absolutely.
couple people who toured with Wayne Brady, and I don't know how I get to perform with them, but I do.
That's awesome. So, okay, you're one of the things I did when I was like putting together this podcast for like this new wave of extreme chat podcasts is I said to people like, what's some, like, we can talk about improv and that's cool, and I'm sure they'll reach the point where there are some people, if they've been on the show more than once, will have run out of everything improv to talk about. Or but like, we doesn't it literally doesn't just have to be talking about improv or performing or comedy or whatever. And I said to everyone, like, are there particular things you want to, like, you that interest you or you want to talk about? And one of which you said here that you wanted to talk about was the book Nottingham, and
Yes.
you're about adapting that. Tell us a little bit about what this is, what where you see this project going, etc., etc.
Well, it's not my project. This the author who wrote it. I wish I had a copy. I have the second book. I gave my copy to Warren Lewis right now, the guy who wrote Black Rain, thinking he could help Nathan get the author Nathan McCarrick get a meeting if he was interested in it, but he hasn't even started reading it yet because he's really busy. But yeah, it's just I've never cared about Robin Hood in my life. Like seriously, never cared. I haven't liked really any of the movies. I like one of the older ones, like from a long, long time ago. And, I haven't really cared for the story that much. I don't like the movies. I read this book just because I'm a huge fan of the author as an improviser. Like when I said the troupe, I watched that before I started performing. Improv, he like runs it, and he's just as brilliant as anybody I've ever worked with. So I'm like, he wrote a book. I'm like, I'm gonna check it out. He actually wrote the play first, and then wrote the book. I read it literally. Like when people say they couldn't put a book down, I could not put this book down. It's just the way it's told to me is just the most unique thing I've ever read.
Wow.
Like one the protagonist in like one chapter would be the antagonist in like the next chapter or whatever, and everybody, like whoever you think is the protagonist, the next chapter the story is told from their point of view, and it's told by a way that they legitimately are the protagonist. Like what they are doing they legitimately believe is the right thing to do. It's like I could kind of compare it to Game of Thrones, where we do see the world through Cersei's point of view, but she knows what she's doing is messed up. Like she knows she's a bad person. In Nottingham, everybody believes they're the good person. It's a lot of shades of gray. And when I was reading it, there were just scenes that I'm like, I have to see this on screen, and I would love to write it myself. I don't know if I will ever get that chance to. I know Nathan really wants to adapt it. He's had a little bit of interest in it in the past. I don't know now. Like I'll hold up the second book. It's called Lion. So that's how you spell his name and last name.
Okay, so I'll hold that up. Hold that up 1 second. Remember that there will be an audio version. So it's, how do you pronounce that name? Nathan
McCarrick.
McCarrick, and it's N-A. Oh, okay. I was going to read it.
Yeah, I just put up a background.
Yeah, that's cool.
For Nottingham, since I didn't have the book.
Yeah, do what you need.
You know how I love my background.
There we go. So McCarrick, if you were just listening to this, is MAKARYK.
And it's called Nottingham. I highly recommend the book. It is fantastic. Like the midpoint and seriously, the ending of this book, I have to see it. Even if I'm not lucky enough to end up being involved with it if it gets made, because I have to see this finale, the end of the book. I mean, it's fantastic. The second book is really good too. I really enjoy it. But yeah, I've never cared about Robin Hood in my life, and this one, it's literally like, it's hard to not say Catcher in the Rye is my favorite book because it's been my favorite book for so long, but like Nottingham is right there. Like it's legitimately good a book.
Wow, no, I will definitely have to check it out. So what's interesting though is I remember a few weeks ago I think you were on an episode of Geek Battle, and I asked you a couple of things from like a writer's perspective and said about like how like as a writer you would have the process of adapting things, and can you do a faithful adaptation. Now this book in particular, how translatable to screen is it, or would there
extremely easily this could go straight to the screen. Like it was originally a play and then he expanded it and made it into, he got a deal to turn it into a book, and it could go straight to screen. There's very little that I think would have to, probably I can't even think of anything off top of my head that would have to screen or change.
Wow.
Unlike the book I tried to get the rights to about a month ago, like as I was reading it, that was another one. Like that's the bad part about being a scriptwriter. When you read an amazing book, I was like, I can't stop and not picture like writing the scenes for the that book would have been a movie. That couldn't have been a TV show. That would have been a movie, and I couldn't stop picturing it. And I'm like, okay, I got to get the rights to this. And then I tried to get the rights. I assembled a team, and for money and people who could have got meetings, and then find out that one of the characters has been spoken for. So
one of the characters has been spoken for.
Yeah, because it's a famous author. The author has had the author has other stuff that's out. So I thought the chances were pretty slim, and one of the characters that premieres in this book, who's a huge part of the book, ends up having her own like series kind of, and it's like she's been spoken for, so this book really can't get made unless it's made by I don't remember.
This sounds like. Do you remember when they made the TV show Hannibal?
Yes.
And they couldn't actually adapt Silence of the Lambs, which is obviously the most famous of the Hannibal Lecter stories. And so it meant that they could have any of the characters that were in Red Dragon or Hannibal Rising, but they couldn't have any characters that debuted in Silence of the Lambs, which is obviously Clarice and
what would bring in the audience. I mean, it's so weird to even try it after that.
And then eventually, and I don't think I ever saw this, I think like within the last year they made a series of Clarice and it just didn't go anywhere.
It didn't. I personally enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I'm bummed that it, like they canceled it and then they said they were going to put it on Paramount Plus, which I hate when they do that. I actually stopped watching SEAL Team because they did that. But and I haven't paid for Paramount Plus yet. I will for 1 month to watch Beavis and Butthead, but I'll wait for that.
But you know, like Paramount Plus, I was going to say
put Clarice on it, and then they at the last second they decided to just cancel it altogether.
No, I got Paramount Plus because you could get a month free trial when it first started, and to me it was just like that. You know, Paramount, as big a company as it sounds it is, to me they don't have enough. I was just like, there isn't enough to justify paying for this every month.
And I just don't like when they'll put a show on for one season on CBS and then move it over. It drives me crazy. Like they did that with Evil, and then after 5 seasons they put SEAL Team on. I mean, I'm glad the crew gets to keep working. If they would have canceled anyways, I'm pretty sure both shows would have still been on because they both did really well in the ratings. Especially Evil. Evil was like the highest rated new show the year it came out, so it definitely would have still been renewed. But
such is life. Okay.
Such is life.
Such is life. Now, speaking about life as a roller coaster, another talking point you gave is roller coasters. What can you tell us about how do roller coasters fit into the story that is Rob?
I love roller coasters, man.
Wow.
I'm addicted to them. Although I don't really go to theme parks anymore yet, post COVID, because I have enough friends who are employees who have gotten sick at them. But yeah, I mean, I just love roller coasters. I used to be a big adrenaline junkie. I still kind of am, and just like curb it just with the roller coasters. I don't have the list with me, but I do have a list of roller coasters I want to go on throughout the world.
Yeah.
I have written that down. There haven't been any new ones lately for a while.
Okay, well, literally this week, I just read a headline. Maybe it was just nonsense, but I read something that was maybe Disneyland or Disney World or one of these things of like patented some contraption so that you can have a roller coaster that jumps the track. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
I mean, maybe it's just like a complete clickbait headline, but it sounds...
That's gotta be. Like, I don't... Like, who knows? People are geniuses. I don't see how that could possibly
Well, the only thing I can think of is there was that thing of Spider-Man, like, animatronic flying, and it crashed once. Imagine if that was like a roller coaster with 50 people on it.
And, like, nobody knew that was an animatronic. People were freaking out.
Yeah,
I would freak out if I was there. I mean, I have a friend who does it, because there is a real Spider-Man in that show, and then it goes to the animatronic. I have a friend who does that stunt work. Like, if I was there, I would have been freaking out if that was... I'm like, oh my god, did the guy just die? I think they calmed everybody down. Yeah, I mean, if something like that happens, I would be maybe not first in line for that.
Okay, hang on. So here's the headline.
Relatively soon in line to go on it.
So this may not be true, but it says here, Disney's newest roller coaster that may be able to jump off the track. And this is on Barstool Sports, so I think I've heard of that website. But it's showing this...
Barstool? Oh, yeah, I've seen that picture for years. That's total BS.
Ah.
But Barstool's pretty... They must have been trolling. I mean, Barstool's somewhat reputable, I think.
Okay, would you go on a roller coaster knowing that it jumps off the track?
I wouldn't be first. I would if it has
but
a
you may be
last.
last.
I might end up being last.
Yeah.
If it had a successful run for a while, I'd go on it. But like, yeah, I mean, God, I can legitimately say,
I just don't know. I could
literally
ever
say,
trust something like that, Rob. Like you mentioned your car, and after a while you look and there's like a puddle of oil or something. It's like, do you want to be? You're like, okay, this has been running for 6 months. At what point does that screw just come loose or
that could
something?
be any coaster though, not just one that jumps.
Well, true. Actually, if it jumps, that may be the safest point.
So, are there any good roller coasters in England? 'Cause I don't think I have an England one on my list.
I don't know. Like, definitely, but I don't know if they're good by your standard. Like, I'm trying to think. In England, I think we have things called like Legoland or Alton Towers is the famous one here. I think actually there was a story from a few years ago where someone lost a limb after being on a ride at Alton Towers, and I think we have. Gosh, I can't remember what the name of the famous ones were, but they were like they might have been things like Death Mountain or Tower this or something like that. But I think someone lost a leg, so Alton
And there's
Towers
always
is the famous
every few
place.
years there's a few accidents, stuff like that happens. Like when I was in grad school and I was going insane with the workload, I would just go to Knott's Berry Farm and ride Accelerator and Gold Rusher to clear my head.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Okay,
beautiful,
so
man.
to tell you what some of the Alton Towers roller coasters are called, this is why I don't go on these. Their names are things like Nemesis, Oblivion, Wicker Man. It's like these sound terrifying.
I
Runaway
like that.
Mine Train, Beast. It's like it's
Beast. We have a beast out here. It's on my list. It's like number 2 on my list. It's
Black
like the most
Hole.
famous
It's just
wooden
like these
coaster out here.
sounds corkscrew. The only roller coaster I've been to when I've been to the States, I've been to Disney World, and I've been to Universal Studios. And I don't, you know how like they give like a rating of how terrifying they are.
Uh,
I think I stuck firmly in the middle. Like at Disney World, I think it's a Brave New World or whatever it's called was a little bit tame, but that was like what's it called? Like it's a small world. That's it.
That's not a roller coaster.
Well, whatever. It's a ride.
You're in a little boat and you just.
Yeah, exactly. It's scary, you know.
I hate that ride more than anything.
Yeah, it was pretty
I
awful.
would
I
I
did
used to have
that.
a Disney pass like my entire adult life, and I would only go on if it was like someone's first time going to Disneyland. I can't
Yeah.
stand that ride.
No, I'm trying to think what I did there. If I brought up a list, I remember I went on, and again these weren't necessarily roller coasters, but the different rides. I went on a bunch of them. I think there was either like an Indiana Jones one or a Star Wars one.
She
There
went to
was
Disneyland
Disneyland and Disney World. I've been to.
because does Disney World have? I didn't know Disney World had Indiana Jones. I thought it was only Disneyland. I
Oh,
could be wrong.
I can't remember.
Disney
No,
World.
it's like it's something that they
Disney
own
World.
now. It might be Star Wars.
Indiana Jones is really cool. I like that ride. Yeah, the coasters at Disney World are not like that strong. Like Space Mountain and Thunder Mountain. If they were at Magic Mountain, they would be, which is like the main coaster place by me. That's where X2 is and Tatsu. When Jimmy and I will completely hijack the show talking about roller coasters on an
Yeah.
Extreme Improv show, we're talking about Magic Mountain. But yeah, Space Mountain or Thunder Mountain would be, you wouldn't even go on it if you went to Magic Mountain. But when you go to Disneyland, it's a lot of fun. Like I love Space Mountain. I love Thunder Mountain, especially in the rain. I like Thunder Mountain in the rain at night.
Yeah, like okay, so at when we went to Disney World, because it was like some of these there was like one or two things. It was like these were designed by Walt Disney, and they were like terrible. And it was like one with dancing bears, and again, it might not have been a roller coaster, but it was an
Yeah, this is the
attraction.
right Country Bear Jamboree. That's
Yeah,
the
that
right
was awful. And
park ride.
like the Tiki Bar or something like this.
Oh, I hate the Tiki
And
Bar.
it's something about like seeing the future. I can't remember it now. It was like a couple of years ago.
Or something you're something in Tomorrowland, I'm sure.
Yeah, this sounds about right. But some of them were terrible. But all of it was good and all of it was like fun. But like some of them was like, wow, this is kind of a bit underwhelming kind of stuff. But
Disney World does have the Rock and Roller Coaster. That is a pretty much a legitimate coaster.
yeah, and
Disneyland out here has at the California, or they used to call it down their California Adventure. I think they still do. California Adventure that has now it's called the Incredicoaster. So that's a legitimate roller coaster. It has a loop and everything. So there are more. I forgot about California Adventure because it's so new.
yeah, like
That's where the Star Wars stuff. Or that's where the Marvel Land is. Star Wars is on the Disneyland side.
yeah, and it's like and at Universal Studios, it's weird because Universal what have they still got? Have they got like Avatar or something that Disney still own? Or
At in Orlando, the Orlando Universal Studios and the Los Angeles Universal Studios are completely different.
wow, I was so disappointed that they didn't have. They'd got the Back to the Future car, but they didn't actually have like a Back to the Future ride anymore.
They used to add the one in California used to, and they replaced it with The Simpsons.
Yeah, I did the Simpsons one, and that was quite good actually. I'll be honest, that is quite fun.
There used to be back when I first moved to California. There was a the backlot tram would in that area was a Battlestar Galactica exhibit, which was just the coolest. Was really like mini stunt show. Battlestar Galactica would go through it, or the tram would go through it, and then they got rid of it to build the Back to the Future ride, and now the Simpsons. But I miss the Battlestar Galactica stuff. As when I used to do Geek Battle, that was often my background.
Yeah. Okay. So if you had a recommendation for what is the best roller coaster, well, it could be one ever, but if you know, ideally one that might still be around because I know they cycle them in and out. What recommendation of roller coaster would you say for everyone?
2 seconds to pull it up.
Okay, we're
For
going to.
watching. I want to talk about X2 at Magic Mountain is the greatest ride. Like my friends get like some of my friends who like get freak out on roller coasters. Like they take your pictures now. Most of the time in pictures, I'm just staring like straight ahead. I like have no expression on my face. Like how are you not freaking out? But, like inside, I am like going crazy. Like the adrenaline's pumping. I'm loving it, but like I don't react on it. First time I went on X2, I was going nuts, man. I mean, this
Wow.
ride while you're going, the car individually spins. Like so, this drop right here, you're going up, and it drops you backwards. The car spins, so you're going backwards head first. Like it is insane.
How does
And I
this just not make you feel ill for days?
I loved it. I was not like I'd heard how great it was, but I was not even prepared for how amazing that ride was.
Wow.
So it's
And I might have told this story on Geek Battle if we've gone on to the topic of roller coasters before. Like one of these traveling, not carnivals or circuses or something like this, where they've got like these rides. They've got a ride which was something where you got spun around, or it may have been a mini roller coaster, but it was just like pumping out fumes. And I got off this thing, and it was like it was the lamest ride, but I just had to lay down for about 18 minutes, and then I got myself home and laid down for the next 3 days. I think it
oof.
like gave me serious poisoning or something.
There was one when I was in junior high, so 13 years old, I think. I went on Montezuma's Revenge at Knott's, which is just it's a launch, loop, goes up, comes backwards. It's a ride like that. We went on, I think, 17 times in a row. That's the only time I've ever like felt dizzy or felt really messed up.
17 times in a row.
Yeah,
But how? Like, do you have a special
there's no one
pass?
there.
Because isn't there?
There was no one there, so
Uh,
they just left us on. Or I guess we did get off a couple of times and go back on, and then it was late. It was when it was closing. But we had to get off, go on, and then when there was no one there, they said, one more, let us go, let us go. Might have been 14 times. But there was a ride at Magic. Thankfully, it's gone. I wouldn't go on it nowadays anyway, because I don't go on the teacups either anymore at Disneyland. I don't go on anything but the teacups. But, unless somebody really wants to go on it. There was a ride, it was called Spin Out at Magic Mountain. You're in this small circular room, and it spins really fast, and you stick to the wall.
God.
Like, it was nuts. I remember I went on it when I was like younger, like early high school, didn't really affect me, but we went on it senior year for a senior trip, and I was like, oh my god, I was so dizzy afterwards. A friend went on that like 10 times in a row. That guy's a lunatic. Well, he does head up a charity right now that he created himself, so really, but that's not the point.
Do you think you
And
could
then,
design a roller coaster ride based on your vast experience of different ones of what works and what doesn't?
I don't know if I could make it work, but I could definitely describe one.
But
That
like,
would,
yeah, like that's what I mean. Like, if you
oh
had to
my
like
god.
brainstorm the ideas of like, oh, we need this bit where it goes down, we need to be flipped upside down, and
Yeah. I actually used to doodle on the back of paper, and like when I was in school, I would doodle like roller coasters or water rides I thought would be cool ideas. Uh,
water rides are quite fun.
oh yeah, I love water rides too.
Yeah, absolutely,
There was some really good ones. I
amazing.
saw one recently that like has a launch, like an upward launch. Like how much water pressure is that possibly taking? I didn't even know how that could work, but
What it
I
like
would
it
love to go
launches you
on
off
it.
the.
No, just like the water, it launches you upwards, and then you just go like it's kind of fast. Like I think it's in Minnesota. Like I gotta check this out.
Wow. How many roller coasters would you say you've been on, or did you already say?
I don't know. So like I said, there's so many I want to go on over the world. I've just mainly been on the ones that I'm around. So I don't know, probably around 40 or so, probably.
Wow, that is a lot
You know,
then.
I've been on them. Like I used to have season passes to Disneyland and Knott's for years, so I've been on the ones that I've been on for. And I have 2 hours for Magic. Like Magic's a bit of a drive, so I don't go that often. But I used to go to Magic at least 3 times a year.
Wow, that's cool. Okay,
And
so
Magic has like
other than
21.
roller coasters, do you have any other like secret like passions, or I don't know? That sounds like a bit dodgy saying roller coaster is your secret passion, but you know what I mean.
I love roller coasters. I'm a roller coaster junkie. I would still pay for Ace if they didn't raise the price. American Coaster Enthusiasts if they didn't incredibly jack up the price. I mean, you get nothing out of it. But I don't know. Restaurants, food, TV. I'm a huge TV junkie. Movies.
You're somewhat of a sports guy as well, aren't you?
Yes, I've been playing in adult sports leagues since I turned 18.
Wow.
Probably even before that. And I like watching it. Not as much. I don't watch it. Like I'll watch football every year. Basketball, I don't watch as much as I used to. Like I specifically watch like the Warriors, and then I'll watch the playoffs. But I don't watch much during the season. I don't watch baseball at all anymore.
Do you play any of these, or did
Yeah,
you?
I play them all.
You play them all.
Right. Past post pandemic, we've only played some pickup games in football, but my friends and I play pickup basketball quite regularly, and I played flag football. Oh my god, it was insane it was insane how serious like some of us took it and how serious some people still take it. But I'd play like three seasons a year on multiple teams for from 18 through 35 probably.
Wow.
Well, it was good times.
And
Made
like
some friends, awesome
what
friends.
position did you play in any of these sports?
In flag football, I am a quarterback, but I love to play receiver, so I'll still play. If I play on multiple teams, I'll play receiver. I originally started as a receiver, and then I had to get forced to quarterback. I was pretty good at it, stuck with it, and had a lot of success, but it's just flag football. Nowadays, though, oh my God, I wish I was 20 years younger. There's leagues forming and tournaments where you can win like $200,000. It was $1 million the first year they did it, but they lost a
Wow.
ton of money. But it's like, they still won $200,000. Man, I wish I was younger. I could still throw, but the people I could get to play on my team, we would get smoked. We're not fast enough anymore.
Ah, wow. Okay, and what? So you also play basketball?
Yes. There's any position, just pick up. I mean, I don't play center. There was one time I was out at a recreational park just playing pickup ball with a friend, and more people joined, and everybody was so short. Like the only time in my life, somebody on the other team said, "I'm guarding the big guy," and he was talking about me. Like,
Wait, so how tall are you?
I am 5'10",
5'10".
little
That's
less than 5'10", little less than 5'10".
well, yeah. We're the same height then, Rob. So I get
Oh,
okay.
so I
So I
don't get
guess
to.
for
So
basketball,
whenever I do get to do a live extreme show, I'm not going to anger you by being taller than you.
not like David Meakin.
I'm going to have to wear lifts in my shoes.
Well, okay, I'm gonna wear stilts. I'm just gonna come out in, like. No, that was cool. It didn't anger me. It's almost like funny to say now, just for the context for the audience. When we had a live extreme improv show, we had David Meakin, who lives in France, came over and met him face to face for the first time. He was slightly taller than I expected. I thought he'd be slightly shorter than me, but he was slightly taller than me. So you know,
It's weird. Like I had no clue how tall Jimmy was until he posted a picture and then he said every time I go to the grocery store, somebody always asks me to get something off the top shelf. I'm like, how tall are you? He's like 6'3". I'm like, no idea.
yeah, so
Being online
it's
with him.
difficult to tell like this. You know.
Yeah.
So, some people though you can get like a sense of they seem tall, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And I was jealous. I'm always jealous when new people go and they go to your shows. I'm like, I want to do it so bad. I want to meet you, Hannah, and Ashley so bad. I want to go to England, and mostly I want to perform with you guys live.
yeah.
And
Well,
it's and Ruth.
yeah.
Like the only
At
person I
some point
met.
this will happen.
Yeah. Like I haven't even met Jimmy yet, and we live so close together. Or Ruth. Ruth O. Only person I met is Bob because he comes to Disneyland all the time. I live right next to Disneyland.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That is
Like
cool.
the video of Danny going to go see Corey. I mean, that's just the greatest thing ever. When that was a surprise.
Yeah, that was a really cool video where obviously like I think I've spoken to both of them about that, and I think I spoke to Corey about that. And again, for context for anyone watching this, Corey Birch, who does the show, lives in Canada. Danny is in Portsmouth in the UK, and Danny went out to Canada, and there's this video where I think Corey was taken to somewhere by his wife to like pick someone up or meet someone, and then Danny was there. It must be one of these surreal things where it's like, well, I know you, but perhaps I don't recognize you because how does it make sense that you're here, kind of thing.
Exactly, it just messes with your head. I remember one time, speaking of car trouble, I saw my mechanic at Taco Bell, and like we just stared at each other. I didn't recognize him. Like, and not till I left, I'm like, oh, that was my mechanic. I'm staring at him, like, I know this guy, but he wasn't in his uniform, wasn't in his garage, and I'm like, we didn't talk or anything.
Yeah.
And I guess he said Danny was wearing a mask at first, and then he took his mask off.
And this, like in Scooby Doo, and he revealed who he really was. No. What I find weird. Have you ever had that experience where you meet someone, or no, where you like know two different, you know this person and you know this person, and you know them from different places, and then suddenly you're all in the same place at the same time? Do you quite know what I mean? So it's like, so like say I knew you, and then there was someone I went to college with, and then we were all at the same place. I'd be like, this is a weird dynamic because I never normally meet them and never normally meet you at the same time. I find stuff like that difficult to cope with. I just like, because you have like different in-jokes with different people.
Yeah. And do you ever like see a friend post something on Facebook and then you see somebody else reply to it that you know, and you're like, how the hell do these two people know each other?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, just like, they couldn't be more like just different parts of life, and like, how do they?
I mean, generally, I'll click on everyone and stalk them to find out who our mutual friends are. So I've kind of got that one covered. But no, you can't take me serious there, Rob. I'm not stalking everyone, but like that was meant to be a joke. But you know,
I know you stalked me, David. I mean, join Extreme Improv. Had to pass the test.
Well, yeah, no, I've been literally stalking you during this show. I've had your IMDb up and finding out about Top Gear and all sorts of stuff going on.
Sounds familiar from recent events.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But it's like the thing you deal with in fame, isn't it? It's weird, even like doing like podcasts or shows online, where people do start to feel like you do feel like people get to know you a little bit.
Oh, yeah, we've been doing the online variety shows, right? And we have developed. It's mainly people we've known from before.
Yeah.
But we have made a few new fans as well. And like the first couple like outdoor concerts I went to of the singers or that I went and saw, people are coming up to me that I've never met, telling me how much they think I'm hilarious, they think I'm one of the funniest people on the show, and I'm just like, it blows my mind. I'm like, I'm just some stupid jackass at home sitting in front of his, webcam.
Yeah, no.
One person told me, he goes, and I knew who he was. We never met before. And I knew who he was. He goes, "You're my favorite performer on Audacity." And I said, "You just said I'm your favorite performer on a show your son-in-law performs on."
That's cool. It's funny though, like when you do get these moments where you're sort of like you're recognised or something. And I had a story where a family member of mine was recognised through me doing the show. They're like, "Oh, are you connected to Extreme Improv?" And so then when they told me the story, I was like, "That is so weird. Like, how do they know you're connected to me and stuff like this?" But it's weird how people find things out and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. How long has Extreme been going on? How long have you been doing Extreme?
So technically, Extreme Improv. Well, okay, I can use the term technically to answer it in two different ways, so that doesn't really help. But the name Extreme Improv first really became a thing in 2017. But that's the backstory of it was that I started what is now Extreme Improv in 2010 whilst I was still at drama school. And it had a different name. And whenever like I'd come up with a new concept for a show, we'd advertise that this is the show, and then eventually the show I came up with in 2017 was called Extreme Championship Improv, and it was a riff, because I'm a wrestling fan, on Extreme Championship Wrestling. And when we did that a few times, people liked the format. They liked that there was a championship belt and that you were trying to win, and it got this competitive element. And they were like, people wanted more of that. And so when we did more, it was then the confusing thing where people would start referring to the show as Extreme Improv or Extreme Championship Improv. and or Extreme Improv Championships. And so eventually I just got rid of the word championship because it's really long for like Twitter and stuff like this. And so then the actual company name kind of ended up fading under the background of Extreme Improv. But so technically it's been around since 2010, but as Extreme Improv it's 2017, but then dropped Championship in 2018. So
It's like the first season of NCIS was called Navy or Naval NCIS, which was very repetitive. So they got rid of it.
wow, I didn't know that. That's super weird. I always find it interesting with like odd naming patterns in films or TV shows and stuff, and like the Fast and the Furious films are like a really weird one, and it might be. I'm not sure if it's simpler in the UK or simpler in America, but you've got like the Fast and the Furious, and then Too Fast, Too Furious, then Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, and then the next one was just Fast and Furious, and they'd got rid of 2 words of the, and then it was Fast 5, Furious 6, Fate of the Future. It's like these names are really confusing. It's like you couldn't write them down and it makes sense.
I think I gave up. I don't know which one the last one I watched was, but I was like, okay, I'll make it through. I'll watch them all just because I've seen them all so many. But I think when like the third movie in a row where the bad guy from the one before was like working with him on the next one, I'm like, all right, I'm done with this.
They love to do that in films though and TV shows. It's like The Walking Dead. It's like Negan is now just like one of the main characters, and like
really? He's a good guy now.
Oh, so this might be a spoiler then, but
I don't watch it anymore.
Well, yeah, basically.
Midway in season 3.
Do you remember when?
I know he killed Glenn. Like I know that.
That's it exactly. He is almost to the point of having a romantic relationship with Maggie, and it's like
no way.
Yeah,
You're kidding me.
That is literally what that is. It's just smouldering on the screen.
Does that happen in the comic book?
I don't think so.
So Frank Darabont is turning in his grave.
Yeah.
Fired. So I really like the theater that you guys, the videos that you posted at the Cockpit Theater. I would love to perform in there. I love how that's a very good setup.
Yeah, I love that they've got the big projection that we can have, and I like that we've got 3 sides and stuff there.
An arena. What's your favorite game to play live?
My favorite game to play live. Possibly Every Sentence Must. Possibly 1 Minute Remake.
Oh, interesting.
Well, what about you? What's your favorite game to play, or not necessarily Extreme Improv one, but any game?
Yeah, there's 2 answers. My favorite game to play is Two Rooms. I love that game. I've had you play it on Wham Bam Improv Jam. I love that game. I love the endowment of it. My favorite position to be, like, thing to play is 2-sentence dialogue. I love to be the person reacting in 2-sentence dialogue.
Yeah, that's a great game.
That's my favorite thing. Favorite thing to be, but my favorite game is Two Rooms.
Yeah.
And I love a game. I only played it once, like right before the pandemic, called Evil Twin, and I loved it. But I've only played it once. So
oh, how does that work?
It's 2 people are it's 3-person game. 2 people are in a scene. A third person comes in, tags one person out, and says something really jacked up, like really messed up, ruins the scene. They're the evil twin, and then they leave, and the other twin comes back in and has to justify what just happened.
Ah, do you know something we've barely done on Extreme is a game called. It's because we need to do like a rehearsal at some point. We've only done it once or twice, and it's the game called Jekyll and Hyde. And the idea of it is that every so often the MC will call out Jekyll or Hyde, and then a character, like one character, will have their personality change, where they're trying to help a situation or they're trying to hinder a situation, and it sounds similarish to that.
Like that, my Improv Night's main game, like our signature game, which I stole from Improv. I didn't steal. I asked for permission to do it because he's like, yeah, take whatever game you want, just maybe give it a new name. It's Aristocrats and Criminals, and we have the third person comes into that game and either helps or hinders. But I let the audience pick them all. Do you want them to help or do you want them to hinder? I like that, help and hinder. Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, bad memory. Our last online variety show, I was the bachelor in the dating game, or I was the person looking for dates in the dating game. And I'm a pretty good guesser. Like, I've done a party corps where there was like 17 people, and I got like 15 of them.
Wow.
So I can be a good guesser. But, and I just read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde again, maybe less than a year ago. And one of the people was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I didn't get it. And I was like, afterward, I'm like, you got to fucking kidding me. How did I not get that?
Okay, so what, you've read A Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Yeah, well, it's short.
It
You
is
know.
short, but I tell you what, it's not in, because I was I still probably will at some point come back to that, doing like an adaptation, like a film version of that for. I won't go into the full specifics of it because it's got something very unique to it. But when I read that, I was just like, gosh, this is kind of not easy language, and also because it's written like as a journal, like just trying to get your head around the order of events and stuff. That's,
Uh,
in fact, it has got the element of, you see it a little bit from a character's perspective, and then you suddenly see later on like a report of what you didn't know was going along the whole time.
the first time I read it, it was not at all what I was expecting.
Yeah,
Like this ultra famous story, and I'm like, it's told weird. Like, it took me a while. I reread like the first 5 pages a few times. I wasn't used to how it was written, and it was
yeah.
very different from what I had
Well,
expected.
it's weird, like again, we're talking about adaptations of stuff. In Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it's like Mr. Hyde, instead of him being like this Boris Karloff monster that you see in Abbott and Costello meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it's like, oh, he's a scrawny, grotesque, ugly person. It's like, well, he doesn't really sound like a monster so much as just like some like person that
Yeah,
you'd keep away from.
yeah, exactly.
But like it sounds like the social outcast rather than like this monstrous villain.
Yeah, when it's referenced in pop culture, it's like he's the worst person on the planet, like serial killer, axe murderer type person.
Yeah,
Crazy, crazy.
yeah. Okay, so what haven't we covered thus far, Rob? Because I am mindful of the time.
I don't know. Do you want? I can always talk about improv. I can talk TV. I can talk. Uh,
What's your favourite all time TV show? Is it The Wire?
I think that's the best show ever made. My favorite show is Seinfeld, though.
Seinfeld.
I can watch it anytime it comes on. Anytime I can quote, I can recite it when it's on.
Wow.
I'll never get tired of
Okay,
watching.
so not that I'll say this to be the challenge now, because we'll end up just like being like script infringement. If someone, like, gun to your head sort of scenario, said you've got to quote, and like you can make like some minor mistakes only, could you quote like an entire episode, like
A
without
Seinfeld?
seeing it as a prompt?
Yeah, I think I could.
Oh, wow, that's pretty
I think I
impressive.
could also. I could come close to doing that. That'd be too big a brag. I was gonna say I could probably do that for Pulp Fiction as well, but that'd be way too long. So, did you ever watch the show Solitary?
Solitary? No, I don't think I did.
Like, I'm not a huge reality TV show person aside from The Amazing Race. This show was nuts. They just put people through absolute torture, and it was only for 50 grand. But there was one point where they had to sit in like a small box, and the closest one to come out in 2.5 hours would win that round. And the one person said, "I just recited Pulp Fiction," and he came out almost like exactly at the time. It's
That's
nuts. Like,
amazing.
uh,
That's
yeah, I
cool.
could definitely do it. I
Okay,
could do
something that just
Seinfeld.
came to my head though, and I don't know if there's a show in this, or I don't know what this is, but I'm almost half pitching something here. I remember going back years when I was like working on like Shakespeare stuff at drama school. They'd say about that you'd get different like versions, and you'd get like the complete works of Shakespeare that someone compiled after Shakespeare died, but it was all of Shakespeare's works as a collection, and that you might find some older versions of Shakespeare from when he was alive. But what you'd usually find that you'd have is that you'd have that each of the players in the script in the show would be given their lines and their cues only, because otherwise they couldn't mass print them at that time. And so if you'd find any complete versions, what an actor would do is they'd have all of their part with all of their lines, and then from their memory they'd have to reconstruct what they felt all of the other characters said. And so there'd be like bastardized versions where it's like these characters are saying things that are wrong, like the order of things have been changed and stuff like this. It almost feels like, with that in mind, if you were like was sat down with a challenge, or you could officially release, or it be just like a documentary or something, how closely from memory you could say like the world ended, there was an apocalypse and people were like coming back again, how well could you recreate Seinfeld or Pulp Fiction or whatever just from your memory? Or it's like the famous songs where it's like, these songs are going to be lost forever. If I write them down now, you can't remember all the lyrics and all the tune, so it becomes something slightly
Yeah, a little
different.
bit different. There was that movie. I don't remember the name of it, where the Beatles didn't exist somehow. Like the guy wakes up and the
Yesterday.
Beatles don't exist, and he writes
Yesterday.
all the yeah, yesterday, yeah, and he writes all the Beatles songs and becomes like a massive star.
Yeah, but I think imagine like if you could do it in some way so you could officially release it, and it was just like if someone was like if Ricky Gervais said that he wanted to do it, I'm sure they'd let him. Whereas like if he just said like I'm a massive fan of Seinfeld, and just from memory I've given myself the challenge of writing all of the scripts again, or writing however many, or the first season again, and here it is, and then it's like, and here's what it actually should have been, and then just see how it.
You know how close it is. You know the pilot episode. I know you're not a huge fan, so you might not know this. The pilot episode didn't have Elaine, and it had like the female in the pilot episode was a waitress. She wasn't like a huge part of the show, whatever, but she would have been a regular person or a regular cast member. But she gave Larry David notes on the script, and even though Larry David was a nobody back then, he's still like, yeah, screw this.
Yeah, it's weird how like it feels like some actors, or not just actors but especially actors, I guess, don't recognize that, oh, there's an opportunity here, and it's just like, and again, this might be something we said on Geek Battle, but like I gave the example, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers show, that by the time it got to the movie, they'd replaced half the cast because they wanted a pay rise when they knew it was a hit, and it's like, but by sticking to your principles of we want a bigger slice of the pie, you now have zero slice of the pie, and someone
Yeah,
else now has your pie.
exactly.
Yeah,
Speaking of the Power Rangers, Amy Jo Johnson was on an online variety show once.
was she the Pink Ranger?
I believe so.
Oh my god, that's so exciting.
I knew her from Flashpoint. I like people were talking about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in the chat. I'm like, the hell, I didn't know she was in that. I'm like, just
What was
an actress from
Flashpoint? Was that the one where? No, I don't know what is Flashpoint.
That was a sniper show. It was a Canadian show, but it aired on CBS out here, and it
Oh,
was
okay.
a sniper, a SWAT snipers.
Okay, no, I don't know that one. I was
And
thinking of
VCO.
Flash Forward.
Ooh, that was a cool show. So
Uh,
that was David Goyer, I believe.
I
Oh,
can't
I would
remember.
have liked to have seen how that was going to end.
It just didn't quite do it for me. There was a few shows where it seemed like it was going to have a great concept. There was like one called Invasion.
I remember Invasion.
Yeah, and it was just like it didn't get exciting until like the episode where they cancelled it.
I was surprised Flash Forward got canceled. I thought they would have at least given it a second season. I thought it did okay in the ratings, but
It came at a time where they wanted it to be the new Lost, and it didn't quite become it.
the new Lost. Yeah, well, yeah, that was their big. Yeah, ABC too. That was their big push. I'm pretty sure that was David Goyer. I just rewatched Death Warrant. David Goyer wrote that in his first movie.
I don't know that. So David Goyer, that name comes to my mind for Batman, right?
Thanks. Yeah, the elite, the dark, definitely Batman Begins and the Dark Knight story. He did story.
Yeah. Is it David S. Goyer?
Possibly.
Oh, okay. It's a unique enough surname so that it stands out in my mind as David S. Goyer, perhaps.
Death Warrant's just the early '90s Jean-Claude Van Damme action movie.
Wait, so David Goyer, who wrote like The Dark Knight, wrote a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it was entertaining for what it was. Like I saw it back then, and then, like it came across on my, like going through the guide, and I'm like going through the grid. I'm like, oh, I'll record that, and then I just watched it for the hell of it. It was entertaining.
Do you like Van Damme movies?
I like Bloodsport. I think it's you have to, or you lose your man card.
Oh, Jesus, don't say that. I was going to say, I don't know if I've ever watched Bloodsport.
You would hate it. If you watched it now for the first time, you would think it sucks. But if you watched it back then, you're like, oh, this is a great movie. And then the movies like that. Like, there are some movies, like, there are movies I'll rewatch, and I'll still love it. Like, I still love Bloodsport. There are other movies I'm like, I actually like this piece of crap.
Yeah. Well, no, like, especially if it's like an 80s movie, 80s action movie. Like, obviously there were bad films, but there's ones that were considered good at the time. I still, like, love them. Anything that's like Arnie or Stallone or...
Predator and Running Man. I'll watch those anytime they're on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you much of an Arnie fan?
It's been a while. talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, or who?
Yeah.
Which Arnie were you
Making
talking
sure,
about?
making sure there wasn't an RM in there. I said no, I would not be a fan of the other somebody who sounded like that.
RM.
Army. I
Army
usually want to
fan.
say
Are you an
Army.
Army fan? No, right. No. Are you a Arnold Schwarzenegger fan?
I mean, Terminator 2 is like the first holy shit movie of my life.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good story. I mentioned Warren before. He's friends with Bill Wisher, who wrote it, and he started hooking up like cocktail hours, one of those cocktail hours. And the first time I go to it and I see him, I'm just like, holy crap, that's Bill Wisher. I made sure I asked Warren, that's Bill Wisher, Terminator 2, right? And he goes, yeah. And like, as we're ending the happy hour, I go, I just have to say, like, I felt like a tool. I never like tool out when I
Yeah.
see some movies or whatever. I was like, Terminator 2 was, I said, it was the first no shit movie in my life. I absolutely loved it. It's fantastic. First one too. And he's like, oh, thank you, thank you. And I'm like, afterwards, I'm telling Warren, like, I feel like an idiot saying that stuff. And then like 3 weeks later, God, I'm gonna kill myself for not remembering his name. The guy who wrote The Last Detail was on, and Bill did that to him. He's like, you don't understand The Last Detail. That's my favorite book, favorite movie. He's like, I love meeting you. It's such an honor. And I'm like, okay, I don't feel like such a tool anymore. The way I gushed over Bill the
Yeah.
first time.
No, absolutely. Like, I'm trying to think what celebrities, like, if I've had any like embarrassing celebrity moments. I'm sure I have, but none that spring to mind. None that spring to mind. Or maybe I'm just like secretly, there's like something in my mind which is preventing me from sharing it on a public show like this.
Do you ever forget we're doing a show and you like say things you don't think you should have?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, that happens to me. That happened when I used to geek bell all the time, which I would still do if it was on later. But don't change the time. Keep it earlier for Cap. Uh, I remember one specifically. Somebody was doing 20 questions who nobody ever guesses who he does. You know, that's pretty obvious. I'm not going to say his name. But during the course of us not guessing it, I always ask the actor who played the main character win an Oscar. And he goes, I don't think so, but he's a fantastic, great actor. And then we found out who it is. And I'm like, great actor, you're on fucking crack? What's wrong with you? And then later I'm like, I just talked shit about like a pretty well-known person for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I gotta not do that. And then I would still just like take shots at like people I shouldn't be taking shots at. It just feels like, because we're so close. Like, I see you guys more than I see most of the people in my life. And we've all developed a pretty good bond. And we just talk like we're friends when we're not playing any games and we're just chatting like we do on Geek Battle.
Yeah.
I'm saying stuff I shouldn't be saying online.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like, I try to be mindful of I make it a joke that I always say that Jai Courtney is terrible, but and it's like, I just don't think Jai Courtney is gonna find out. But if he did, or suddenly there was a project with Jai Courtney and it was like, oh, this guy's been saying this stuff about you, I'd be like, oh, what, you never know what the next door will hold, and you might shoot yourself in the foot.
One time, a few years ago, I was a guest DJ at a radio station, and we got to pick our own songs, like 10 or 15 songs, something like that. And I played "Living on the Edge" by Aerosmith. And when it comes back from commercial, which we don't, we just film it straight. It takes like 15 minutes to record. I said, sorry for that creepy image of Steven Tyler I just put in your head, and sorry for reminding you that, I don't want to say his name again, so and so exists. Or
Yeah.
Something that you might know who it is. And like later, I'm like, I asked it, I asked the engineer to pause. I'm like, is that okay that I said that? I just took a shot at this guy, and he's all, who was it? I said his name. Like, oh yeah, F him, that's fine. But I was always thinking, like, what if he was, because I'm pretty sure he lives in Los Angeles. Like, what if he was listening to it, just randomly listening to the radio that day, and heard some guy saying, I'm sorry for reminding you that this person exists. It's just a joke. I mean,
Yeah. It's so easy, like, and especially again, like you said about like doing R-rated shows and that. It's occasionally the case of like, oh, you could say something which might end up sounding like pretty dark humor and stuff like this, and I guess like if there are any guidelines or rules or stuff that I say for in terms of content, I'll say well, don't do things that would, I guess nowadays get you banned from any of the social media stuff or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But
Which
I also say because I'll in the past I've often said like, well, if Family Guy do a joke about it, like the weird thing is that people watch something like Family Guy or whatever on TV and they'll laugh at a joke, but then if you suddenly make it, people like, you can't say that, it's terrible. It's like you laughed at the exact same joke when It's just because you know me and you have access to me, suddenly you don't think I should say it. And so you do have to be aware of that, because also, like, Family Guy is big, whereas Comparison, it's like, oh, you know, they've got a lot of things in place to be able to take the flack if they cross a line a little bit too much. So
there have been times, like, I find it really hard with improv sometimes in that regard. There have been times, I'll have my hand raised for whatever line game we're playing, and I'll be in the middle of telling the joke, and at the last second, I'll think I probably shouldn't say this. Like, I've done that plenty of times. Like, oh, never mind. I don't think I should say it. It's a tough, but I would say it, like, at a Polly's Picnic show. We trust the audience. The audience. They're not going to get offended by it, knowing it's just a joke. But online, the wrong person sees it, and the clip goes viral, and it's like, you're screwed.
yeah, no, absolutely. It's something where everyone's still got to, like, kind of learn what the new rules are and stuff, and they're always changing, which doesn't make it easy.
Yeah. There's one thing for sure. There's one game that I don't think can be played anymore. I don't think it's safe to play accents anymore. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, if you go into the National Theatre in the UK, in London, they've got a bookshop, and they've got, like, a wall just of books on different accents. And it's like, so we can't do any accents now, or you can do some but not others. And
yeah, like, we can do some, and if you get endowed to do a certain accent, that you're gonna look like freaking Mickey Rooney and Breakfast at Tiffany's. You can't do stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's weird old time. Weird old time.
Which you shouldn't be able to, by the way. That is a ridiculous. Like, that should have never happened, Mickey Rooney. That was a bad example.
But you know what? I don't know that example, so.
Just if you watch the movie, you would know. It's a white guy playing an Asian guy, and it's completely.
Oh, ridiculous. I get it. Yeah. Yeah, like, there's stuff, like, how recent Mickey Rooney, is he still alive?
I think he passed away. The movie was old. That's probably 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
And it's a stereotypical accent. It's really, like, it's hard to watch. Like, the movie's so good, but it's just that's so hard to watch because of that now.
Yeah, it was like, when I've seen, like, especially, like, old, like, sitcoms or something, they'll just have people playing people from other countries, which just, they're just not from that country, and it might be that they've, not going as far as, like, tanning themselves up, but they do things to alter their appearance, where it's just like, ugh, and it might be like things like Benny Hill or something. Well, do you know who I mean by Benny Hill? Yeah, so everyone knows the Benny Hill theme, but I think that goes down in maybe as an example of things which, like, they can't really do that anymore, show that anymore, and stuff like this, just because it's so dated.
My favorite Benny Hill story is probably because I heard the background of how it came about. Was there's a scene where someone's robbing him and says, "Your money or your life," and he says, he stops and says, "I'm thinking."
Yeah,
that's really funny. I guess apparently he was like, he couldn't remember his line, and he said, "I'm thinking," and then they just.
That's great. So stuff like that I really like, where something that's kind of improvised or just off the cuff ends up in a final cut of something.
Getting back to what we were talking about before, even like that game that we all love, Foxworthy. Like, sometimes I'm thinking, like, there could be people from the South who might not like this game. Like, they might take offense to the accent somebody does if it makes it sound like too bad.
Well, I think one of the times I came to the States, I did someone else's show where we did a game where you had to make everything like a Tennessee Williams play. And I was like, well, I definitely don't know what's in safe bounds or out of bounds here, but, like, I'll give it a go. And so, it kind of worked because people found my accent hard to understand when I did that show, and I was like, really? I was like, but I'm English. It's like, although actually I've got a weird accent, people don't always think I'm English in England. So
what else do you get?
Often I'll get that people think I'm Australian or New Zealand or from New Zealand.
Oh, really?
And that's really bizarre to me. I've even had that within the last month, but that is something I've had going back 10 or 15 years at least. And what I think it is that when I was growing up, there was, like, soap operas from Australia, and there's like at least two different soap operas which would last half an hour a day, and they were on 5 days a week, and they'd be on in the afternoon and they'd be on in the evening. So I'd see them at least that many times. And I think I just picked up certain pronunciations. Some people, who was it recently? So someone, I won't say who it was, but someone who did Extreme Improv asked me if I was American. And the weird thing was, someone, I won't say who it was, but they are American. And I would just say it's not someone that I think you'd directly know regularly on the shows kind of thing. But they are American. They asked me if I was American. I was like, but you're American. How can you think I'm American? And they said there was just certain things in words that I say. And I was like, well, probably because, again, growing up, I got half my language from watching The Simpsons and WWE and stuff like this.
Well, growing up, it was the WWF.
Well, this is true. You know, I try to keep it contemporary here, Rob. You know.
Don't want to offend the World Wildlife Fund.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, I'd never support them just because what they did to WWE.
I used to get, like, they would randomly send stuff in the mail.
Really?
For donations. And every time I saw WWF, I thought it was World Wrestling Federation. At first, I'm like, WWF mailing my house? How do they know where I live?
Yeah. I actually once did get a letter through the door from WWF, and that was, and the wrestling. In about 1997, they had a show that came to the UK, and like the television network where you'd get like that they'd be shown on, they sent something out to their subscribers to be like, we have a show coming to the UK, and somewhere I've still got this letter, and it's just like dear customer or whatever, but it's got like WWF logo letterhead and stuff like that, and to me it was the coolest thing at the time.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
You're a big fan, you get something like that.
Yeah.
It's hip shit.
So, okay, just like again, mindful of time. Just very quickly on this.
Forever.
Yeah. Well, we'll do a part 2. Like, this is the thing. Like, what I kind of envisage with this show is that I imagine that a lot of the people, especially ones that have expressed an interest of being on the show, at least to begin with, like the first time we do a show, we'll be like, so, what's your origin story? Tell us about improv, blah, blah, blah. And then just, like, throughout it, like, already I feel like we're touching on some, like, interesting other stuff.
Yeah,
and
we've hardly even talked about improv.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, we there was a bit at the beginning, and, like, we've dipped back into it, but it really has been a roller coaster of different things and adaptations and everything else that we've covered. I was going to make a point here, Rob, and I've lost it now.
My fault.
No, it's my fault. I was going to say, so, like, obviously you're somewhat of the movie buff and stuff like this, and occasionally when we do the shows, you just seem, once again, a little bit like I have things within reach. You just seem to have some, like, random objects that seem appropriate within reach and stuff.
I thought you were going to say I always throw out some random movie you've never heard of for you to remake.
Oh, no, you do that as well. That's always fun for me. Like I said earlier, 1 minute remakes like my favourite game. And I always get, like, Billy Madison or Tank Girl, and I've never seen them.
I feel bad sometimes. Like, I'm always giving a suggestion, but I give a couple beats, and I'm like, the dead air kills me. I'm like, if no one says anything, I'm going to call something else out. But, like, I'll give the 1 minute remake, I'll give the character for you to do at the end, and I just, it's so many I want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep stuff around for especially when improv became so much stuff doing online, this and the variety show. I'm like, yeah, it's good to have these props. I can pull them out.
Yeah, like, always, like, within my reach. Again, for the listeners, like, I have a fan, which I always, like, sometimes when we're, like, doing votes and stuff, I just like to have, like, random things, which, it's just like, I'm interacting with something which just doesn't feel like you should be interacting with.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I got the things to tie around my head. I got my sword, like, the portable sword nearby, the one that I can lift, which I miss having it in my room.
Wait, what's a non-portable sword?
I brought it out. It's portable, but it's heavy. I showed it one time when I mentioned I had it. It's like a sword from like a Braveheart type sword. It's like 15 pounds. It's really
okay.
heavy.
So how come you own multiple swords?
I don't know. I like swords a lot.
Wow.
I was a huge fan of Seinfeld, of Highlander.
I remember that episode of Seinfeld, the one with the sword. Yeah.
There actually was an episode with a gun that they ended up not shooting at. They went to the tail bridge and everything, and they're like, "This doesn't feel right," so they ended up not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I got into swords probably because when I became a huge fan of the TV show Highlander. I like the movie too, but the TV show I was obsessed with it for a while, and I just really like.
Can you sword fight?
Not really.
But enough.
if it's safe, like Adrian Paul has started doing sword fighting classes, like a touring sword fighting classes, then I might waste the money and do that if it comes around here again, if he does them again. But no, I've taken like I've done stuff like the not with the swords obviously, but like the practicing like the sticks and stuff. I've done a couple of things with that, but I don't know. Like I don't really believe in guns, so if somebody broke into my house, I think I could probably.
So wait, hang on. You say I don't believe in guns, but I'd like cut someone in half, like Michonne in The Walking Dead with a machete.
Like Highlander. Like the
Wow.
last thing he would hear is there can be only one.
Yeah. See, like I don't have a sword. I've got like a little sword thing. I'm trained in like rapier and dagger because we did it at drama school. And I say I'm trained. It's been a little while since I did it
It's
at any.
fencing, right? Rapier, the rapier is fencing.
Yeah, but it's you will have a dagger as well. But yeah,
Yeah, I've never trained in that, but I do know that that's like a main thing. Like actors do that.
yeah.
Like every actor, like and then when they have to dance and move, they're like, oh, I can just rely on my fencing training. And like, so I do intend on taking fencing at some point.
Yeah,
Like,
so
sorry,
it's not like what I've done isn't like strictly fencing, so I couldn't like enter like fencing thing, but like I'm sure a lot of the parries, are just going to be the same, but you do it with two hands with what I've done, but I'm sure it is pretty much the same principle. But
I
yeah,
do have
like
a I do have a tree that sometimes it hangs over the basketball hoop in my backyard, and if I'm able to reach it, I do chop that off with my sword.
that's amazing. So is it? It's not even like prop sword. Is it? Is it
Yeah,
block?
it's a real former samurai sword. And it cracks
Jesus,
me up.
that's
Like
crazy.
I look at swords all the time. There's a couple specific ones that I want. So like I'll go to a sword shop and I'll like, oh, how's that sword? And like the person will say, oh, and this sword and it's battle ready. I'm like, I'm not planning on getting in a sword fight. I just want it for decoration. It cracks me
Yeah.
up. They say that every time.
Okay, have you ever
Uh,
like got like a watermelon or something that's like notoriously tough and just like
I,
whoosh?
I, I am not sliced up a watermelon. I am not opposed to doing it, however, but I have not done it.
See, here's the thing as well. Like, I like the yeah. I wouldn't. It's gonna sound weird. I'm not saying like I'm for guns, but there is just part of me that because it looks cool. Like when I was in drama training, there was someone who was in my class whose dad was in the military or something, and got a load of decommissioned guns. So they were effectively props. And that
Yeah.
week where we were working on the project with them, I was just like, I feel so bad. I felt like Jack Bauer at the time,
Uh,
and it's like
all
so
right.
just as an actor, and I know like without suddenly taking a serious tone, there's accidents happen. There's that one with Alec Baldwin a year ago, and stuff like
Friend of
that.
mine
And
do. Friend of mine worked with a cinematographer that was killing.
oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But yeah, so that is a good case, and obviously years ago,
Girl.
the crow, and stuff like this, things happen. So nowadays, like I think Dwayne Johnson said on all of their films, they're gonna have like rubber guns and do it with CGI because
Which
nowadays
should
they
have
can.
been anyway.
Yeah,
Like it makes no sense. Like
yeah,
how that happened after the crow, how that happened after the crow, it's ridiculous.
absolutely.
But yeah, I was in a drama. I was in a scene one time where I had like the most realistic gun I've ever felt,
Yeah,
and that's a cool feeling. But yeah, I'm just I'm opposed to them. But
yeah,
it is weird. Like when you watch, like I love this. I know you don't watch any of the British detective shows, which are so freaking good.
yeah,
But I was watching Luther, and Luther occasionally he has a gun, but like no, the cops don't have guns, and it's so different
yeah.
to see that.
Although you say that, a few months ago I was in London, and this was before the Queen died, and we were walking along near where 10 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister lives, and it's not far from like where they've got stuff, everything like in that area where like royal family or whatever, and they were walking along and they'd got guns,
Oh,
and I said to my girlfriend Rachel as we were walking along, I was like, it's so crazy, but if I just suddenly did something wild, they'd suddenly be gun ready at me, and it's like, it's where you hear about like people who have like suicide by cop. It's just like
yeah.
just walking along this street, you could do something crazy, and there's this thing right there. And I remember the first time I went to the United States and I was at the airport. Like as soon as I went through and there was like security, it's like, oh my god, there's people with guns here, which was so wild to be in that different kind of environment.
That's I'm jealous. I mean, guns are a major problem out here.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so it's crazy.
But that's the thing. Like, so if like ideal roles that I'd love to do, I'd love to be like I said, like Jack Bauer, Jason Bourne. I just want to have like an '80s montage where it's like the
You just
gun
named
here, the shotguns here, like the machete. I just want to have like one of those loading up montages.
you just named like one of my favorite all-time TV shows, which is one of the most original shows ever, in my opinion, and
Well,
the single
24.
greatest. Yeah,
Oh, it's one of my favorite shows. I used to do
yeah.
a 24 fan site.
It's favorite season.
My favorite seat, the first one.
Yeah. I'm partial to 3, but I have one right behind it. But everybody, so many people say 5. Well, the one when he takes on the president, and that I didn't think was that good.
I
That's
okay.
everybody's favorite one.
Right, we
At least the
will
critic.
we will wrap up, but you opened up a can of worms by mentioning 24. So for me,
Before you do that, really quick,
yeah.
because I said you just mentioned like my favorite show, one of my favorite shows, the most original openings ever, and the single best opening to a movie like written wise ever in Jason in the first Bourne movie. The opening to that is just from a writing perspective, just
Wow.
genius. I can't
Yeah.
not say that. When somebody mentions that movie, I can't not say that.
Okay,
It's
there was a weird trend. I'll just segue this slightly, where there was Jack Bauer, there was Jason Bourne, and there was like James Bonds. It's all JB. These like secret agents. They're all JB. So that was a weird observation I made. But yeah,
what were you
so
gonna say about 24?
24, the first season, you didn't even know who the president at the time was, and it was like there's a presidential candidate, and they're going to get assassinated. So they kidnap the person to force Jack Bauer to force him to be the assassin, kidnap his daughter, kidnap his wife. It's a very personal story when you find out Victor Drazen and like who was the villain and stuff like this. Yeah. That he's like doing this for revenge because his wife and daughter died, and everything sort of like tied in, and it was all very personal. Then season 2 happened, and it was pretty good. But they were like, oh, because it's the counter-terrorist thing, we need to make it bigger, and it was nuclear bombs. The third season, it was like, well, we'll go biological. After that, and I still enjoyed it, but my observations were that they relentlessly killed every character who wasn't Jack Bauer. He was the only character, I think, from the first season, other than that Kim just left, the only character that they didn't kill off. And they killed off Tony Almeida and then brought him back as a bad guy.
That was bad.
Well, I could have been on board with it. But the other thing I don't know if like Kiefer Sutherland, like one of these Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham contracts where it's just like, I can't lose a fight or something. But it was like everyone around him just seemed like an incompetent in the end. And I was like, come on, like Tony Almeida should be able to beat Jack Bauer in a fight once or something like this. But it's just... For me, it just kind of went downhill. The real turning point was when they killed Edgar. If you remember them killing Edgar.
Yeah, of course, I remember Edgar.
Yeah, but like, it was so emotional. And then the next episode, they just killed Tony. And obviously, he came back. But I was just like, oh, come on, this show is just... Yeah, it was relentless.
Like, I love the show. I watched it through the end. It wasn't nearly as good towards the end. His brother and dad being the bad guys, that was so stupid, in my opinion.
Oh, also, look... If you can't get Donald Sutherland, don't write Jack Bauer's father into it.
Did you ever see I think it was the Oscars. It might have been the Emmys. Probably the Emmys. Yeah, it had to be the Emmys because he won. When he won Best Actor, and he looks in the audience and goes, oh, my dad's here. Wow, I guess I have to hang out with him now. It was like so uncomfortable.
Oh, wow.
I wish I lived for stuff like that. But,
yeah.
It was funny. But what I was saying, and they brought the show back. The Die Another Day stuff.
Live Another Day, right?
Live Another Day. I don't remember who was the lead. It's kind of...
Can't remember.
It's the Winter Soldier guy, right?
I don't think so.
It's not. No. It was Dr. Dre from Straight Outta Compton.
Okay.
He was the lead guy. And I still thought it was pretty good. One of my friends who's a massive 24 fan, he's like, oh, it's horrible. I'm like, well, it's kind of better than the last season. And he sent me a clip from the last couple seasons. A few clips. I'm like, oh my god, that was amazing. It was way better. But I was hoping they would have gave it the last season with Jack Bauer when it wasn't 24, when it was just 12 episodes, whatever, and Yvonne was in it. I was kind of hoping they would have continued on with her.
Yeah.
I still liked the new version. I thought it was okay. I hate how it ended for his character, where Jack Bauer's character character ended up right now. He's in like a Chinese prison.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it was one of these things for years. They were like, "Oh, it has to end tragic for him or something." It's like, well, does it? It doesn't really.
Yeah, I mean the guy saved the world multiple times.
Yeah,
You know, let him,
exactly.
he's not Big Mackie.
Yeah.
Did you get
Right.
the shield? Did you get the shield out there? Did you watch
I
the
didn't
shield?
really watch it. I just know that the main guy, played the Thing in Fantastic Four. That's all I really know about it.
He originally played. He was the commish, which was just this light-hearted like cop show, like very like it was mostly a comedy with crime of the week stuff. And then like 5 6 years later, all of a sudden he's just total badass on the Shield. Everybody's like, before it aired, like, how the commission gonna pull off this character? And he won an Emmy for it. Shield's a great show.
Yeah. No, there's so many of like these cop shows, procedurals. Like again, it's perhaps something over the years. Like English shows used to be like 6 episodes a year, and then like
Yeah.
American shows would be like 26 episodes a year. And so like if there's like a new, like on, especially now because you can stream everything. If you look and it's like, oh yeah, what's this show? And it's like it'll say 8 seasons, and it'll be like 197 episodes, and sometimes it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
Then I'll go to the English show, and it'll say like two series, and it'll be like 9 episodes, and I'm like, okay, I can watch this one.
Yeah, because I recommend a lot of British TV. When I recommend it to people, I'm like, yeah, it says there's like 5 seasons, but it's like 10 episodes. Like,
Yeah.
you can still watch it. It's no
Well,
big
it was the difference between Sherlock and Elementary. It's like Elementary, there's dozens of episodes, and Sherlock, there's like 10.
By the time Sherlock ended, I ended up liking Elementary a lot better.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, it's just a procedural. And that actually only survived after the last 2 seasons because it did so well overseas. It wasn't doing so well here anymore, but they kept it on because it still performed really well overseas.
Wow.
Yeah, if you were going to start like Law and Order or NCIS now, shows that are on for 20 years. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to start from beginning to end, it would be impossible.
Yeah. Although I think that's cool in a sense, because if it's just like you want to be able to watch something and it's like I don't want to have to like pick a new show. It's like I've got this, I can watch it for the next 3 years and not run out.
Some guy, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 5 6 years ago, watched every episode of Law and Order and took a screen grab of the computer just to show how computers change throughout time. I'm like, how do you have time to do something like that?
No, it's weird. It's like I worked out recently that if we got every episode of Extreme Improv Extremed and played it one after another without a break, it would take an entire month to watch.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought
Someone
that.
should do it. Someone should do it. Audience out there, I want one of you to do that. And say, I don't know how long I started into the run of the show, but make sure you say, around this episode, it started getting really good. I don't know why.
Awesome.
I didn't. Oh, before I know you want to go.
No, I don't want to go. Don't make it sound like I'm trying to get away from you.
Well, a few times I've noticed you're like, yeah, it's time to wrap up. I'm insanely competitive, and
Yeah.
not that I just want to win these shows, but like once I started doing the show and it said like, and I noticed that there was a winner at the end, like I didn't share the show until I won on merit myself the first time. And I was like, if I don't win, I'm never going to share this. People aren't going to know I do it. Yeah, it took me a while because I was on a lot of shows with Ashley.
Yeah.
He wins. He's so brilliant. But yeah, I'm not going to tell people when the show's on. Like I sent them the show after. I'm like, I did the show. You want to watch it? But I didn't tell people. I didn't share it when it was going on until after I won one with the extreme audience voting for me. Like that's how like insane I am.
Yeah. Wow. No, that is dedication.
Yeah, that first one felt good.
Yeah,
Really good.
I should imagine. Like I remember like a year into the show, I decided that like I'd do a screen capture of me winning it, and I was like, I finally won. I'd won like 1 out of every 5 shows. Like, and like, I'm not bragging. I could win more, but sometimes it's like this. I can't just keep. I'm on every episode, so the law of averages is that like I'll end up winning a disproportionate amount just because of that. And so often I'll not being in an arrogant way, but I'm not always trying to win. I don't think it's a good thing to always try to win. But about a year into the show, I was like, I finally won. Dreams do come true. And I got like 50 responses of like, well done. I was like, come on guys. It's like normal when I'm on the show, if I do well, everyone hates me for it. And now you're congratulating me when I've definitely won it like 20 times.
You studied and you worked on your craft.
Yeah.
You finally won.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so it's a funny thing though, just with with like how if you're the MC of something, people. So there's like a weird psychology where they see you as the authority and they kind of want you to lose.
Oh yeah.
And it took me a while to understand. Well, I hope that maybe I'm just kidding myself and I'm like convinced myself that this is the case. That they like me really. It's just because I'm the authority figure. But it took me a while to understand. Like, I'm putting on this show. Why does everyone want to see me lose?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're hilarious. I love doing scenes with you. I love
cheers,
when you're
man.
on Wham Bam. I'm pushing into that.
Yeah. No, I intend to be there this week.
The biggest laugh I've ever gotten on the show, I wasn't even in it. It was I was watching the show. It was one of the World Championships. I was in the chat, and one of my suggestions, you guys all just started cracking up at the suggestion. And I'm like, that's a bigger laugh than I've ever even gotten on.
Wow. Do you know what, Rob? I speaking of a similar thing, I did the Wham Bam Improv Jam a few months ago, and one of my favourite things I've ever done, and because obviously that it's a jam, it's not recorded, so it is one of these moments that's lost into the ether. But even just by telling this story here, I'll perhaps in some way preserve it. It was that game where people were not auditioning, interviewing for a job. And
well, I was hosting?
Yeah.
Oh my god, you made me break! Do you
remember what the joke was?
What?
Do you remember what the joke was?
I don't remember the joke.
Okay, I do.
I remember your outfit, I remember the pipe.
I got a pipe, and so when I came onto the screen, it was like the good, the bad, or the ugly, or something like this it was called. The game, was that right?
This is worst job interview.
Oh, worst job interview. Right, but one was good, one was bad, and they get worse. And so,
that's a different game.
Okay, maybe I'm just completely muddling it up. But anyway, so I came on with a pipe, and you were doing the interview, and I was like, put it there. And, you were like, at first you were like, oh, distinguished gentleman. I remember you saying that so vividly.
I remember now.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, put it there. And you go like that instinctively to like shake the hand. I was like, you may want to wash your hands. I've got terrible jock itch. And then Rob, even though we were on Zoom, you looked at your hand, and I was like, this is the best moment. This was like, it was such a natural reaction to, like, the penny drops, jock itch, what does that mean? Where has hands been? What does that mean for me? But you just had the natural, like, what have I just shaken the hand of? And that was so much fun for me.
Oh my god, I love that. That was great. And then throughout the course of that whole interview, I broke a couple times. Sometimes I'll laugh, because I want other people to feel good. But I was genuinely laughing there. I was cracking up. I rarely break. Sometimes I only get acting work because I don't break. But, I cracked up there.
No, love it.
You want to know what my suggestion was that made you guys all crack up?
Yeah.
Christian Glover looks around a room and realizes he is not the weirdest person in the room for the first time in his life.
Yeah, I remember this. I remember this coming up.
You and Dave Green just couldn't stop laughing for a little bit.
Oh my god, Crispin Glover is so weird though.
Yeah.
Have you seen? Like, I think I probably said this at the time. Have you seen him when he was like on David Letterman?
Yes.
Oh my god, that's so weird. He starts trying to claim that someone else was him after he did like a kung fu kick or something at Letterman.
He's one dealing permanently banned, and that's like one of those weirdest talk show appearances ever.
Yeah.
Very strange guy.
Well, fortunately, Rob, and I'm not trying to just end things now, but you have not been one of the weirdest talk show guests that I've ever had. No, I definitely have had weird people, but I'll let the audience decide who they were. But Rob, we will wrap this up here, just because it's been about 90 minutes. This is like a good length, it's feature length, like bumper length show.
Nobody wants to listen to me for this long. So
yeah, they do. Like, we'll leave them wanting more, and then we'll come back to this.
All right.
Yeah, and I'll try and see some episodes of The Shield. I'll try to see if I can check out Nottingham and some of these other things.
I'll definitely read Nottingham. And I watch Luther. The best character ever is like Ruth Wilson's Alice on that show. It's such a good show. And Skins, you haven't watched Skins.
Nah.
Like, I remember when I first started, you want to rap. I suggested Skins a couple times, and you didn't know, like, I haven't watched it. And I'm like, I thought for sure it was a British show. It's the most famous. It was the most watched show in the world at one point. Like,
yeah.
All right, but yeah, right.
Okay, so that is cool, Rob. We'll definitely revisit this and pick this back up. But as is tradition, where can the people find you?
online variety show. There's going to be a show on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I'm 50-50 to do it right now. I don't know if I'll be in it. And I'm hosting Wham Bam Improv Jam. I don't know when this is going to air. I already have been hosting the Wham Bam Improv Jam by the time you see this, but I host it every few weeks. That's Wednesday nights on this Wham Bam series, and you can find me on Extreme Improv as often as is humanly possible.
Awesome. And my name is David Pustansky. You'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you smash the subscribe button on all the different YouTube channels: Geek Battle, Jetlagged, Loving It, Slam Jam, and of course Extreme Improv. Check out the website xstreamed.tv. And if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, then whether you're on Apple or Google or Spotify or whatever, hit that subscribe, and there's a bunch of fantastic guests that I've already got lined up. Some I've already recorded, some that I'm about to record, and like by the time that you even hear this one, there may even be several episodes ready to go, so do check that out. And on that, until next time, stay safe, always stay extremed, and ciao for now. Boom. And we're off the air.